Arknights, Blue Archive, and Genshin Impact, three of the most well-known games that I discuss at least on my channel, and I want to take a look at each of these games and kind of gloss over and talk about what makes a good gacha game and what makes each of them worth playing. It's 5 AM and I'm probably going to ramble a little bit, but if you enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like down below and let's move on. So when I take in a gacha game, or when I take in any game, one of the first things I previously looked at was the graphical style. And with gacha games, it's very iffy because you don't really have that option a lot of the time. Sure, you're going to have some very nice animations, very nice live 2Ds, and very nice character designs, but overall, depending on the game you're playing, you may not have that many animations to really look at. You may not have any 3D models. Genshin Impact is entirely 3D, it's open world, you explore, so the graphical style of that matters a lot more than something like Blue Archive or Arknights. In Blue Archive, one of the main things you're going to notice is the live 2Ds of pretty much every single character, and in Arknights you don't have that. However, for Arknights you have individual skins for outfits, you have different character designs, you have the E2 art after you promote them to a certain extent, so each one has varying levels of art focus and varying levels of design extent. So if you can't take that into consideration, well, what can you take in? What does it really mean to have a good style? This could be consistent theme, whether that be across the menus. I think Arknights has a beautiful menu design. I think between Arknights and Blue Archive, I prefer the way Arknights presents its content to you when you first log in on the lobby screen. Though I will not lie, Arknights loses out the moment I use a Blue Archive live 2D screen because I enjoy those so much, but that is a personal preference. These won't be discussing OSTs. Let's be honest here, I don't think any gacha game really has an awful OST. Genshin Impact OST, it slaps. Any song you play, it's great. Arknights OST, every one of them is amazing. Blue Archive, great. I don't think any one of these games can really be considered a bad OST, a bad soundtrack. But if you have a favorite one, hey, leave it down below or listen to it and you may hear it in the next video, who knows. But gameplay is very difficult because none of these games are really the same. Blue Archive is much more of an autoplay game. You throw it on and you really don't get to interact with anything. You get to deploy your skills, but you can also just use autoplay for that. With Arknights, it's much more focused. You have to individually place down these units, individually choose where they're facing, who's with who, and you have to consider, okay, what enemies are coming at you from which direction, where do you want your position to primarily be? As in, is there one specific point in which all the enemies have to cross over, and are you going to focus in on that point, or are you going to try and keep your enemies spread out to a degree in which you take them out before they get to that point? You also have the combination of skills, not just one skill, but you have up to 3 different skills that you can kind of go over and discuss and figure out which one you like the most. And it's because of this that I'd say Arknights has arguably the most tactical and strategic feel of gameplay because it requires you to think so much. Everything is basically a decision that can impact you later on. Dedicating and heavily investing into one unit won't get you to clear all the content. Don't get me wrong, there are some great units to heavily invest into, but it won't leave you to the point where you can just blindly stomp through most of the content of the game, at least not later on. Genshin Impact arguably has the most involved gameplay. If you're really not a fan of the tower defense style of game, then Genshin Impact is the one for you, objectively speaking. Because you have to move everything, you have to aim, you have to click buttons, you have to maneuver around. Unless you have Zhongli, you have to dodge. And it's because of this that I'd say, from an outside perspective, which one got me into the most, which one did I enjoy the most? It's Genshin. After that, I'd say Blue Archive I enjoy the most secondarily. If I'm talking about which one feels the best to play on my phone, it would either be Blue Archive or Arknights. I just enjoy Blue Archive's live 2Ds a lot more. I enjoy the character relationship storylines a lot. So that's what drew me in. Speaking of story, let's talk about it because I have opinions. In case you haven't noticed, in case you haven't looked at this channel and discovered, I have a lot of opinions. So when it comes to story, it's a much more subjective thing. You can really like a story style or the way it's told to you, but hate the actual plot of a game itself. Here's what I will say. Arknights and Blue Archive present their stories a lot better than Genshin. Genshin Impact has good, intriguing storylines, but awful, and I mean god-awful. I mean terrible and absolutely horrendous writing. Like, I'm pretty sure you could find any random person on the street and they would write a much more consistent, tonally consistent plot line than Genshin Impact will give you. And that's what frustrates me most about that game because I love stories. I like reading lore. I like learning more about the things that I enjoy in video games. And Genshin Impact doesn't give me that opportunity because Genshin Impact likes to hide its lore in 70 different ways, but then tell you something that completely contradicts it. And when it finally tells you that one thing, the tone is so inconsistent that it doesn't even feel valuable or worthwhile. Here's what I would say. If you like Arknights lore and you research Arknights lore, everything you learn feels like it helps you get a greater understanding, and everything you learn feels like it provides a bit more context to stories that you're seeing in game. Arknights is the same way. You learn these relationships, you learn these characters, you learn their past and their backstories, and it feels, at least to me, a bit more rewarding. Genshin Impact does not give you that. So if you're looking at things from a storytelling perspective, yes, Genshin feels the most intriguing and interesting because you have cutscenes, because you have voice acting, because you have nice character models to look at. After that, you have Blue Archive and Arknights, which alternate between their intrigue, and I think Arknights incorporates the gameplay a lot more into the storytelling, whereas Blue Archive kind of gives you the option to just focus on gameplay and ignore the story. That's down to personal preference though. I think a good gacha game is really, really subjective, just the same way a good game is subjective, but I do think there are certain things that really factor into it. Do you want to play? Do you feel enticed to play? If you feel forced to play, that's an entirely separate thing. Fear of missing out is something that a lot of games use to get you to pull, to get you to roll and spend money. Now, regardless of the gacha scene and how it works, I think that the evaluation of whether or not a game is good to play or not feels and has to come down to, do you want to play or are you forced to play? I want to play Blue Archive. I want to play Arknights. I feel more forced to play Genshin Impact. And on an inherent level, this makes me dislike the game even more. Because when I want to play a game, I want to learn more. I want to do more. I feel inclined to improve the characters I like. And that's something I will say Blue Archive and Arknights have done an amazing job of. They've made me adore a character to an extent to where I want to invest into them, even if they're not the best. I don't think anyone really is going to contest the fact that I probably really like Izuna in Blue Archive. She's she's on my channel banner. I like that character. I've invested heavily into that unit. And even though she's not the best, she's one of my most preferred units to use just because I like her as a character. And that is something I feel like is incredibly important. Because you don't have to draw me in with beautifully designed models or an enticing storyline. You can draw me in with one simple character. If you get me to like one character enough to play your game, you succeeded where a lot of others have failed. Because sure, you can drag me in with a plotline, but if that plotline is not complete and I'm waiting 8 months to hear the other half of it, then it's not really worthwhile. If you could draw me in with a character, if you could draw me in with Golden Glow, with Lionheart, with Suzerain, with Izuna, with Mitsuki, then you have characters that I feel inclined to come back to invest into, and that keeps me in the game. Yeah, gacha rates are all over the place, but let's be honest here, even though we could all look at the game and say, wow, those are really great rates, you could have the worst luck ever, and it wouldn't mean a single thing. I won't go into the game saying, oh yes, Blue Archive and Arknights have awful gacha rates, and so does Genshin Impact, because they're all pretty bad. What I will say though is that it feels better, in my opinion, to get dupes of something in one game than another. I feel like Blue Archive has the best system, because even though you get elves which gradually improve your characters, a lot of those can be used to improve other characters too. Arknights has a shop, Genshin has a shop. Both of these games have shops that allow you to exchange some of the currency you get back for other useful materials. And I think that what really makes a good gacha game isn't necessarily how good the gacha system is, but it's how good the characters and the gameplay is, and is that enough to get you to come back to it? What games do you come back to? I want to know. Leave them in the comment section down below. I legitimately want to know, what games do you come back to and why? I like Arknights and I like Blue Archive. I come back to Blue Archive for Izuna, for the characters that I enjoy, for Hibiki. I come back to Arknights because I really like Golden Glow, I like Suzerain, I like Lionheart. I return to Genshin Impact for Tighnari, I return to it for Zhongli. And those are my opinions on what makes a good gacha game. Those are my opinions on some great gacha games. If you haven't played any of those 3 games, try them. Ignore the community, just try out the game and see if you enjoy it. My name's Chikai, I hope you enjoyed. If you have, leave a like on the video down below, consider subscribing, and hey, I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.